Hello everyone, I hope your day is starting off as fantastic as it possibly can. Just a few days after Canada's 158th birthday, I hope you had a fantastic weekend. I was out enjoying some of the beautiful countryside. Pictured behind me here in our great country in my secret fishing spot. But I'm here to share some fantastic news with you. This is what happens in the media these days. The sensationalized rhetoric is what gets reported, and some of the quiet, important stuff that happens in the background really doesn't get reported. But what I would describe as a huge win for Canada, it seems that Canada has completely outsmarted the USA, and quietly in the background has secured a huge deal with Greenland. Let me explain it to you. Pictured behind me here is the one-man show that represents the United States now. And his strategy after getting elected was to lash out at the whole world, insult everyone, threaten everyone, and make ridiculous demands. Among those being making Canada the 51st state, taking over the Panama Canal, and insisting that the United States should have Greenland, Greenland being a territory that's very rich in rare earth minerals that are necessary in the production of a lot of defense items. He thought that a really good strategy to secure some deals, maybe bring the United States and Greenland closer together, would be to insult them and threaten them that the United States could just take over. As he was threatening Greenland, he sent his vice president and his wife over to visit, and not surprisingly, they didn't get a very warm reception. And I'm not talking about the temperature in Greenland when I say he didn't get a warm reception. But that was this guy's strategy to secure Greenland because of its national security importance for the United States. What could possibly go wrong with that strategy? Well, not surprisingly, as reported here on a BBC article, Greenland is not a piece of property, said their prime minister after Trump's threats. Greenland's new prime minister has said that the island is not a piece of property that can be bought in response to Donald Trump's repeated calls for the US to take control of the autonomous Danish territory. Now, in the meantime, while all the rhetoric was being thrown around in the media, you remember how the news cycle was flooded by Trump's ridiculous threats about wanting to take over Greenland. It was all over the news. Meanwhile, quietly in the background, our intelligent economist, who is our prime minister, was busy making deals and forming alliances and associations with the EU. Here he is giving a speech in what was not the EU summit, but the EU and Canada summit just recently. And it seems that those meetings and discussions may have quietly resulted into something a little positive. Just announced recently and reported here in the Financial Post, Greenland awards Canadian miner permit for metal critical to defense industry. Greenland has given permission to a Canadian mining company to explore for molybdenum, I hope I said that right, a metal critical to the production of steel amid growing demand from the defense industry. The Arctic island and its mineral riches have this year become hot geopolitical topics after Donald Trump's persistent request to take over the territory, which is part of the Kingdom of Denmark. At the same time, the European Union has identified Greenland as a strategic area of interest as the continent tries to become less dependent on the import of raw materials. A company called Greenland Resources, which is based in Toronto, got a 30-year exploitation permit for molybdenum, which I can't say, and magnesium at the Malmberg project in East Greenland. According to a statement Thursday, the company can apply to extend the permit up to 50 years. The miner said Malmberg has the potential to supply all the EU's demands for this mineral that I can't pronounce for defense purposes for decades to come. The Canadian company has signed off-take deals with European steelmakers. Molybdenum is currently only produced in China, which has 87% of the market. The United States has the remaining 13%. So which was the better strategy? Quiet, respectful diplomacy, one-on-one meetings outside the media spotlight, having Canada sign up as a partner in a $1.3 trillion European defense spending initiative, having Canadian companies now secure contracts so they can supply the materials that'll be required as this massive amount of money gets spent, or to barge in like a bull in a china shop to make bombastic threats, trying to make your allies cower in submission and tweeting out to the whole world what a big guy you are. This guy certainly controlled the news cycle for a number of months on this topic, but quietly in the background, this leader has handed Canadian companies deals on a silver platter. So Canada completely outsmarts the United States, or maybe I should look at it differently. It's really not hard to outsmart a competitor that has an absolutely ridiculous strategy. Maybe it's not Canada that outsmarted the United States. Maybe it's the United States that outstupided Canada. And I just want to say this is another one of those behind the scenes small stories that really doesn't get reported a lot. And it's just another step along the path that Canada is taking now. Slowly, step by step, we're making progress. And good things do happen slowly. You have to use diplomacy. You have to be respectful. You have to negotiate with your partners and allies in like-minded countries. And these things take time, but we can see things slowly unfold in the positive direction. Now, of course, the news and the media, they always want to focus on the new insane thing that the President of the United States said. And I guess that guy really feels good just being the central focus point of the media, everyone talking about him, and maybe he feels like the big guy. Look at me. I can threaten Greenland. I could take it if I want to. We have to take it. It's important to our national security. We need to have Greenland. How could that strategy possibly achieve anything positive for the United States? I would much rather be represented by this guy. And the takeaway here, and I think I learned something myself because I got caught in the trap just a couple of days ago, and I have to thank some of the lots of you in the comment section. I read your comments, and I realize after reading all your comments, the video I did recently, and I posed the question, did Canada cave when we backed down from the digital service tax? We dropped the digital service tax so that negotiations with the United States could proceed. We dropped that tax right after Donald Trump posted on social media that all negotiations are off now because Canada's stabbing us in the back again with this digital service tax. And the media was flooded with articles that, see, Canada's caved now, and Donald Trump wins again. He's such a tough, big guy. But when you really start to think about it, and you all pointed out some very interesting points in the comment section, which I took to heart, is that Canada and Mark Carney's approach are always to do things quietly in the background and not negotiate these out in public like Donald Trump does. And negotiations were going on, and I'm sure that one of the things that was being discussed was this digital service tax. And it would obviously be one of the things that Canada could use as leverage or trade and maybe get something in return for dropping it. And all of these things are going on behind closed doors. And it's possible that some negotiations were going on behind closed doors to that effect, that potentially Canada could drop the digital service tax and get a concession from the United States in something else. Well, you won't see Mark Carney tweeting about that while sensitive negotiations are going on. But of course, Donald Trump wouldn't resist the opportunity of being the big guy again. And we have to realize that it's obvious that Trump knows which way these negotiations are going and what's happening, and probably knew that the US was going to make some sort of concession and Canada would drop the digital service tax. So why not throw it out on social media to make himself look like the big guy? Look at me. I'm going to threaten Canada now and they're going to back down. Well, here we are a few days later and the negotiations are progressing. And I use the words Canada caved. And I think I have to apologize for that because really, did we cave? We gave up something that we didn't have yet. And most certainly we got a concession from the United States that we don't know about yet because the negotiations are going on behind closed doors. So Donald Trump, of course, is throwing that out in the media, being as loud as he can. But Mark Carney, in the meantime, is playing a complicated chess game. Maybe we just sacrificed a pawn. But actually, we didn't even sacrifice a pawn because we weren't collecting the digital service tax yet. We didn't even sacrifice a pawn. Maybe we just passed on an opportunity to take one of the Americans' pawns because we have a bigger move planned later in the game. We won't really know what the answer is or what comes out of these trade talks that are going on behind closed doors now. But what I think should make us very optimistic is that step by step, you can see these positive announcements coming out. Right after being elected, Mark Carney gets on a plane and he goes to Europe. He meets with leaders from the UK and France and other European leaders. Then all of a sudden the EU summit becomes the EU and Canada summit. Then Canada gets included in a $1.3 trillion defense initiative. A few weeks later, contracts are being awarded to Canadian firms. The very country that the United States was threatening that they had to have is now making deals with Canada. And those Canadian companies are going to invest and explore in Greenland and contribute to this European-Canadian 1.3 trillion spending initiative. So the good news always comes out slowly, one step at a time. And it's usually underreported in the media. It's just much more fun for the media to sensationalize the next dumb thing that Donald Trump says. And I believe I was a little bit too negative in my reaction to Canada dropping the digital service tax. And I have to thank all of you for being much more positive in the comment section. You all made amazing points. And that's what I find so fantastic about this community that we're developing on this channel. I try and discuss this stuff and actually look at facts and charts and bar graphs and all the boring stuff that you don't usually see in other media reports, and present the information and try and dig deep and figure out exactly what's going on below the inflammatory rhetoric, because I think Canadians are starved for this kind of analysis. And what's happened as a result is many times we have a comment section of hundreds or thousands of comments, and many of them are very thoughtful and articulated by viewers that actually have an understanding of what's going on, rather than just being a cesspool of slogans and negativity. So I have to thank all of you for the comments that you're leaving in the videos. And I had to present this story because it seems to be underreported, and we should all, as I've said before in other videos, be cautiously optimistic in the direction that Canada's going. All of these issues are complicated, and they're going to take a really well thought out plan that's executed slowly, step by step. And I believe Mark Carney is showing us this now. This mineral deal with Greenland might not sound like a big deal, but it's a step towards a really big deal of Canada forming new alliances in trade and Canadian companies coming to the forefront of big spending initiatives that are going to happen in the years to come. And the beat goes on, reported here in Bloomberg. Last week, another Canadian miner raised funds to help expand production at Greenland's main gold deposit. In January, Denmark said it would support another Canadian company exploring in South Greenland for graphite, a raw material considered critical by the EU. Slowly, step by step, I think Canada is making progress. So thanks for watching, everyone. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the comment. Leave some more comments in the comment section. I do read all your comments. If you'd like to support this channel monetarily on a monthly basis, please consider becoming a channel member. I leave a link for that in my comment that I pinned to the top of the comment section. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you all on the next one.